college football true contenders. Obviously, UGA was always on this list. Maybe not as obvious, but I would still say Ohio State belongs on this list.
Why do you say not obvious?
Just because not winning the Big Ten the last 3 years and people being like, they're overrated. Ryan Day sucks. But like, they are still obviously as much. Yes,
the most talented roster in college football. They are contenders purely because they've more talent than anyone else in college football.
No, you're absolutely right. I guess I'm just getting out ahead of some of the people who are like, Ryan Day sucks and Ohio State always underperformed.
Yeah, I get that.
And like they shouldn't be in there with Georgia, but I feel fine putting Ohio State in there with Georgia. Clearly, this list had at least one team join this weekend. I think the question is, did a second. Texas, after what they did in Ann Arbor, dismantling Michigan, dominating. Again, the thing I can't get over is dominating that defensive front. Featuring Graham and Kenneth Grant. Like, that's the most surprising thing, the most legitimate thing to me. But the secondary looks way improved, though we don't know the full measure of it quite yet. But Texas now firmly in true contender status.
100%. I don't see much difference between those three teams, to be honest. Like, I think all three of those teams, you put them on a neutral site, it would be hard to pick which one is going to end up winning it. I really do not know right now. Like, obviously, there's a helmet behind me. You know what I feel about Georgia. I think Georgia is a very talented roster. I think, you guys have heard me wax poetic about Carson Beck, and Kirby Smart's the only coach really that is in the conversation that has won a national championship. We're not going to put North Carolina in there. I don't think we're really going to put Clemson in the conversation. Obviously, Georgia whipped them up a week and a half ago or a week ago. So, like, I love Georgia. But I really like Ohio State. I think the big question about Ohio State is, like, I'm not sure about their quarterback. Like, let's be honest. Like, the rest of Ohio State's roster looks really good. Want to see him against better competition, but we know, like, that roster's stacked. But how do we feel about Will Howard? That's still up for debate. Texas roster right now looks just as strong as it did last year, and Quinn Ewers looks better than he did last year. I would say, like, to me, if I had to rank them, it would be like Georgia 1A, Texas 1B, and then Ohio State maybe 2. Like, I am a big believer in Texas this year. What I saw there in Ann Arbor, I big believer in Texas.
I think just like the AP poll did, you have to put Texas above Ohio State because of the quarterback.
Yes.
As I said, when Quinn Ewers throws the ball, you know how when you bite into something that it just has like a great fluffy texture, you can almost feel it in your molars. Not just, and I don't mean like just like chewing on it. I mean like it's you feel it on like an ASMR level. When Quinn Ewers throws the ball right now, the touch on it, I feel it in my teeth just by looking at it. It's astounding. Now, as Andy and who else in the chat just now are pointing out, Adam, is there a new team in the true contender category, Aaron? And is it the Tennessee Volunteers after a complete dismantling of NC State, 51-10, on a day when Iamaleava, like you pointed out earlier over the weekend, his ability is such that he can make a mistake and overcome it. But to me, the bigger takeaway for Tennessee after more reflection is everything else. It's the defense. We always knew the running game was great. It always is going to be great under Heupel. Now they have a great quarterback with a huge talent ceiling, and now they have a defense that is full of fucking dogs. And it starts with the D-line, but it extends out. Are Tennessee true CFB title contenders, not playoff, championship contenders?
What got Texas over the hump a year ago? Like, how did Sark finally get to where he got to a playoff team? And then now it's kind of building on it to heading into the season. He built really good lines of scrimmage. Texas had the most dominant defense line in the country. Texas had a really good offensive line. What has now Tennessee done? We think flash, we think throwing, we think up tempo, we think receivers. Tennessee has the best defensive player in the country. Tennessee has one of the best defensive lines in the country. And then Tennessee has one of the best offensive lines in the country, probably a top 10 unit there. So like we think flash, even Texas was dark. We think flash, we think throwing, we think viewers, we think worthy. No, like they won in the trenches, and that's what got them to the playoffs. Tennessee has the trenches. Now they have the quarterback, just like Texas got Ewers. They have the receivers. They have the run game. Secondary is still going to be something that is going to be questioned throughout the season if that is going to be the weakness and the weak spot of the football team. But they're good up front. And when you're good up front with the talent that's behind it, you're going to have a chance at every single game. So, yeah, I think Tennessee is 100% a contender. I think, and maybe that's because I was just there, I think Ole Miss is someone that would throw in there too, because Ole Miss.
Before you get to Ole Miss, I want to talk about Tennessee just a little bit longer, because I do think that there are slight tiers to this thing, even within this contender. Because, like you said, Texas and Georgia, I think, would be one. I would have Ohio State by itself at 2.
Yep.
And then I'd have Tennessee right behind them. And the only reason is Nico is still so young, right? Like, one of the reasons why I'm so high on Georgia is Beck he hit the rhythm that I thought he would last year, with it being his first year starting. I think he's learned a lot. I think he'll be better. Quinn Ewers just continues to get better and better every single year. Nico's at the beginning of his journey. So that's one reason why I'll have them just slightly underneath. For Ole Miss, the only reason they're not in level 1 or 2, and they'll be right next to Tennessee for me, is because they just haven't played anybody. But Jackson Dart has all the experience. They appear to be complete top to bottom. And so, like, let them play someone, which I don't know when the first time is. LSU, maybe?
Like, let them, LSU.
Yeah, and who knows if LSU's any good or not. I mean, they're getting worse by the week. So it's going to be tough for Ole Miss to maybe climb into the Georgia-Texas tier because of competition. But on paper, they look like they could push for that.
100%. And go back to Nico, too. Like, Nico has the opportunity in the next 2 weeks to kind of, I would say, work his way out of this. Oh, he's young. Oh, he's young. Oh, he's young. Like we need to protect Nico. Nico's not Raiola at Nebraska. I think we're talking about Nebraska here in a little bit, but like, he's not that young. Yeah, he's a redshirt. He played football last year. He played in the bowl game against an Iowa defense that was stout. He has now played in a neutral site game, big time national spotlight. Kurt Herbstreit's up in the booth. Like, I know, like, when I was playing at Georgia, when we would have Kurt Herbstreit in the meetings, like, you knew that was a big deal, and like you get a little bit more jacked up. So, like, for him to hold his nerves, still make the mistakes, and perform the way he performed in the national spotlight, that's growth. In 2 weeks, when they go on the road against Oklahoma and Brent Venables, if he can get through that game in 2 weeks, I think we have to stop with the narrative of like, oh, Tennessee can't do it because we're worried that Nico is not experienced enough. Is he experienced as much as Ewers and Carson? No, I get it. But like, at that point, I don't think I would say I would 100% trust that Nico can handle big games and big game situations. And I'm going to put away that whole, oh, he's too young to go win a championship.
Well, to be clear, if you're putting, if in how I view this, and this is a new thing that we're doing with this championship true contender thing, right? If I'm putting him in this club, we are saying he's capable of winning a championship.
Yes.
I'm just saying if I'm ranking within the club, that's where the youth causes me to put them below the other ones. Not to say he's too young to win a championship. I don't know that I believe that. I think he can. That's why he's on this list. So Ole Miss on there as well. Sure. Even though they haven't done anything as impressive as
Ole Miss, just like Tennessee. I mean, like, I know it's in a different way.
Yeah, but Tennessee State opponent, 51-10, even throwing 2 picks against.
No, I'm just talking about how they built the roster, though. Like, sitting down with Lane Kiffin this week and sitting down with their staff and seeing a calmness to them, not just heading into obviously this game, which they knew they were going to absolutely dominate, but just like, I've covered Lane a bunch. There was a sense of, holy shit, like, we've had more competitive practices than I've ever been a part of. This is no longer just the offense rolling the ball out there in practice, and we win 7 or 8 or 9 out of 10 days of practice where the offense just dominates. Like, no, it is truly 50-50. And this is an elite offense with Trey on the outside and Juice and a really good, I would say an improved offensive line and one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Like, the defense is winning half of those days. Like, that should tell you a lot about what they've been able to accomplish through the portal with Princely and the kid from A&M. Like, they, just like Tennessee, got better up front on both sides of the football. And then now the complement to that is obviously knowing you have really good quarterback play and really good skill play behind it. So I think Ole Miss is 100% a contender.
Are you putting anybody else in the true contender club quite yet?
I'm hesitant on, definitely not Missouri. I just,
No.
I don't know if I can.
I mean,
I
we'll
need to
get to
see him
look,
do
we'll
it.
get to Mizzou. We have very positive things to say about
Yes.
Mizzou. It's not in this category, though.
No. Are you not putting Alabama in just because of one game? They did the
No,
same thing last year versus USF and ended up winning the SEC championship game. Like, are you?
I mean, I don't have them on fraud watch or anything like that. But I actually didn't think about putting them on this list, kind of because, and maybe this is just me being disappointed because what I was positing in the offseason, but like I thought Jalen Milroe would look better thus far. Like I thought for them to attain like full championship caliber potential year
You
one
obviously have not watched the quarterback breakdown because Milroe was not horrendous at all in that football game. That offensive line was terrible.
against South Florida.
That was the worst I've ever seen Alabama play at offensive line. And they
Which
have two
line
guys
did
in there.
awful last year against South Florida as well for whatever
They
reason.
were horrendous versus South Carolina. Just losing one-on-ones, bad bag. There's the mic IDing on the 3 down front was completely off and just super easy to do. And it's just like, why are we doing a 4-man slide into the situation and leaving our running back having to block 2 guys? Like stuff like that, you just kind of scratch your head a little bit with the offensive line, but they're banged up. They're missing 2 guys up front. So you hopefully that gets better. So like I'm not putting it all on like Jalen is like I use that as a headline. Did Jalen regress? Question mark. I don't think he's regressed. I just think the offensive line was, like I said, the worst I've seen Alabama maybe ever play up front.
Well, either way, the Alabama offense as a whole has not performed necessarily like I expect them to come out like a flamethrower with the offseason to Kalen DeBoer and another year and I mean really getting like the majority of their O-line back, except adding one of the top transfer portal players in the nation and adding the center. I'm blanking on his name from Washington. So you know what though? I think it was just simple oversight in my part. I don't think you can have this list without Alabama being true contenders because of DeBoer's resume, because we saw them do this last year, and because of the overall quality of the roster. I would stick Alabama next to Ohio State. I would still have them ahead of Tennessee and Ole Miss, and I'd stick them next to the Ohio State in the true contender category.
I'm going to add one team in there. I'm going to go on a limb on this one. I think Miami's in that 3rd tier. I think Miami, we've been over the roster. The roster is top 10 PFF in almost every single category.
Yeah.
And Cam Ward is that fucking dude. Like Cam Ward is that guy. And I know it was Florida and I know it was some shit opponent week 2. I really don't care. That kid is special. You have talent, and now you have one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football that may be the best playmaker in all of college football. Because unlike Jalen, Cam can throw the ball, and Jalen's still learning that part of his game. Cam can run, Cam can extend, Cam can make plays from within and outside the pocket. And then you couple that with a very talented roster. I think Miami is I would put them in that 3rd tier of contenders with Ole Miss and Tennessee.
I don't mind it, dude. They definitely feel like the ACC favorite, though.
Yep.
As you laid out, Clemson's road still is actually wide open when you look at their schedule. But I don't think of them as a true contender, no matter what their regular season record ends up being. Yeah, you know, it's a bit putting the cart before the horse, but I agree with you. The difference is the legitimacy of Cam Ward, and at least this adds some kind of, because we got a lot of SEC teams on this list. Granted, the AP has 6 of the top 7 teams from the SEC right now, so it just kind of is what it is. So, okay, yeah, let's let Miami in there as well. They slot in next to Tennessee and Ole Miss, and there are your true college football national championship contenders through 2 weeks of the season.